Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Port Angeles, to our Talk Thursday, yet again. Grateful to have everybody here. My talk title tonight is Messy Perfection, and this phrase popped into my head earlier this week when I was doing my morning meditation, and then a little prayer at the end of that. And somewhere in the prayer, this phrase, messy perfection, popped in, and it just struck a chord within me. Because we have this dichotomy in us of being divine, which is perfect, and human, which doesn't always look like it. And so that's what I want to talk about today. It's a common theme for me because we must be willing to look at the wholeness of our lives, all of our lives, in order to experience or really feel our connection to anything. If there's any part of us that we are pushing away or shunting off as not good, not spiritual, not perfect, if we're pushing that away, that's what's going to run us. That hidden thought, that shoved down idea, that darkness. And I love the synchronicities that happen in my life. Every time I get a little, oh, that's what I'm going to talk about this week, something shows up in my experience to reinforce that idea. And I was watching Facebook, and a talk from another minister at another center came across, and he was talking about this very same thing. I'm not going to steal his talk, but I'm going to talk about some of the same concepts in my own way. He was talking about the dark night of the soul and how often many of us in the spiritual life don't want to look at that. We don't want to dwell there, we don't want to talk about it, and so we push it off and then we go straight over into prayer. And he said that the challenge with that, and I agree, is that if we don't acknowledge this, we're carrying that with us into our prayer, into our deeper knowing of some truth. And so we can only then realize, feel, and experience a limited amount of whatever it is that we are trying to hold in our higher consciousness because we're being run by this unseen, unspoken idea. I see synchronicities all over the place. And I started thinking about synchronicity, and I started to wonder, do I see synchronicity everywhere because I look for it, or is it always working for and through us? And when we begin to allow a wider view, a more open view of life, do we just begin to see more of what's already here and around us? One of my favorite analogies is, if you buy a yellow Volkswagen, you've never seen them before, and you think, oh, I'll buy a yellow one. Nobody's got one of those, and suddenly they're everywhere on the road. What we look for is what we see, what we experience. So if we're looking for darkness and doom and gloom and fear, that's what's going to be showing up in our experience. Life is a perfect mirror for whatever is going on in our consciousness. And we're human. So we're going to have some dark thoughts, some fear, some uncomfortable things, things that want to challenge us and stress us out. And if we ignore them, as I said earlier, we're going to be run by them. I think with synchronicities, when we begin to open up to something different, like maybe there is good in the world, and maybe I'm a part of that, maybe people aren't all bad, whatever the idea is, and we begin to just open up to something else, our brains are amazing pattern recognizers. Our brains notice patterns. That's how we've survived all these millennia, how that we've been around, is because we're good at recognizing patterns. Which patterns do we focus on is the question. And so if I'm a good pattern maker, I know that I am because I like puzzles and I like the way things fit together in life. And when I think about something, I start to see it everywhere else and it ties in somehow. So I know I'm a good pattern maker and recognizer, and I think that's the same for a lot of us. We get to choose what patterns am I wanting to look for. Sometimes being human is very messy. Being in relationships are messy, any kind of relationship. Friendships, romantic relationships, work relationships. If we're being authentic, they're messy. If we're trying to be perfect, they may not look messy, They may look like all of our ducks are nicely in a row, but every time I get my ducks in a row, then the ducks start wandering all over the place, and something happens. Somebody will say a comment, and whew, I feel a flood of emotion, a flood of something, a reactivity. If I'm staying awake, if I'm breathing, if I'm remembering that I get to acknowledge what's over here, that reaction, oh wow, I'm having a reaction right now. If I can even say it out loud, wow, I'm feeling really victimized right now. Wow, not you're victimizing me, that's different. But ooh, I'm feeling something uncomfortable right now. And I'm willing to sit with my discomfort. Whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, am I willing to just sit with it? Let it inform me about what wants to be healed. I talked about this last week. And then can I look at something else? Can I let it dissipate or dissolve? We can choose to open to a fuller experience of life. When we aren't willing to feel, it will run us. I was not willing to feel anger or sadness for a long time in my life. I felt them, but I was not willing to feel them. I did not like to feel them. I did everything in my power to pray them away, talk them away, push them away. And I paid a toll because of that. My relationships were not authentic. My communications were stilted or cynical or sarcastic. Instead of asking for what I need, I would do it covertly through some other way. Because this idea of it's not okay to feel this stuff was running me. The Science of Mind textbook says, Ernest Holmes says, God knows only perfection. When we know, as God knows, our troubles will be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with past illusions. I love the poetry of that. It's challenging in our humanness to know as God knows, to see as God sees. Robert Downey Jr. says, life is just so painful and messy and hard and worth it, and all that stuff. I like that. It's worth it. It's worth it to get messy sometimes, to be willing to be uncomfortable, to work through and find what's on the other side. Some beauty, some new glory. And I don't mean some holy out there glory. I mean glory within us as messy human beings. God, we're so beautiful. We're so beautiful in our messes. Reverend David Ault said, humanity and divinity need each other for growth. That's why he chose as a soul to be in a body. If we didn't need to grow as a soul, we would have just kept dancing out there in the stars, connected to everything in the oneness. But there's something in our soul that cries out for growth. There's something in divinity that wants to know itself more deeply through us. And so here we are, in a messy body. A woman named Hattie Moran said, I am fascinated by people's flaws and delusions, all the messy bits of human nature we all try to pretend we don't have. If we come across someone, how often, instead of if, how often do we come across someone and we think, oh, they've got it all together. Their life is just great. When we scratch the surface of anybody's life, they've got a story, they've got times they felt victimized, they've got times they felt powerful. Everyone is this way. I've been really feeling what's been going on in our country lately. I've been feeling it. Whew, I can feel it right now, welling up within me. What I believe is that we are bringing to light something that's been hidden in the darkness for a long time. And the reason there's so much energy around it so much appearing opposition happening is because we're churning up the waters. We're dredging up, literally dredging up from the bottom of our consciousness that which wants to be healed. This ridiculous idea that we are separate, that you are different from me, that there is the other. We're beginning to bring it up, and in the bringing up of it, it's messy. It's very, very messy. People are getting killed because of this mess. People are talking about shutting others out, pushing people away. I feel that. And I say no. I say there's something else. There's a different way. There's a way we can look at each other and see ourselves through whatever is going on. Our opening song that we sang tonight, there is only one of us. In your eyes, it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. And so, the Syrians are me. Black people are me. Mexicans, Latinos, indigenous people are me, and I am them. Our experiences may be vastly different. Vastly different. And I feel this insistence that there is nothing wrong that a lot of people have is their fear and their unwillingness to delve into the dark, to delve into it. And it's mine. I have to own my own. That place where I'm unwilling to go into the dark shows up out there as that person who is unwilling to acknowledge that there's a problem. A problem. I don't really even want that word. I don't want to denigrate that there's stuff going on that feels really wrong. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to choose something else. To choose something else. Another quote I found today, messy is a word we use to explain a conflict with an expectation we had. We have an expectation, there's a conflict there, and we call that messy. Eliminate the expectation, and you eliminate the messy. Again, that's not easy to do, because we're human. We have expectations. I expect the sun's coming up tomorrow. I expect my husband to do certain things. I expect my dog to behave a certain way. When she threw up on the carpet earlier this week, I did not expect that. And it was messy. And was it a big deal? No, I cleaned it up. We can clean up our messes. We can apologize. We can say, wow, I really came at you with some energy there, and I'm sorry for that. We can ask for forgiveness. And that doesn't make us weak. It makes us real. To really feel the awesome spiritual nature, first of ourselves and then of others, we must be willing to feel and accept the darkness and allow the charge of it to dissolve. Then we can deeply experience our connection with all of ourselves first. Until we can do that, it's really hard to do it with somebody else. Until I can begin to accept my whole self, it's hard for me to accept your whole self. Then we can connect with each other. Then we can connect with Spirit. Now, Spirit has been there all along. It's never gone anywhere. It's been patiently waiting for us to open up to all of life and then see it, the divinity, everywhere, just like synchronicities. The more we begin to open up, life is not this. Life can open up and open up and open up and open up, and we can see a whole view with all its mess and all its beauty, all of its pain, which doesn't always mean suffering, can be real, we can love. This is what we can do.